Zadrizes Buzdaris goes down.
Please slap a like on this video. Like goal is gonna be 420. and then also make sure you're subscribed and turn your notifications on if you enjoy my content. The reason why I ask you for that is because I'm being shadow banned on YouTube. Ultimately, I beg people that are watching my video and really enjoy my content to go and check out my Patreon. Once I become no longer reliant on YouTube's ad revenue, it'll take a lot of the stress away from being shadow banned here. Okay, so when I search my comment section on YouTube and on Twitter and on Instagram, speaking of which, make sure you go follow me on Twitter at @sir_hunts, and then on Instagram at @sir_hunts_reviews. Those are both linked down below in the description. But one of the things I see heavily debated is obviously, are you Team Greens? Are you Team Blacks? But more importantly, regardless of whether side you're on, your two favorite characters are 9 times out of 10 Daemon and Rhaenyra, at least in the top 5. So the biggest thing that people debate in regards to the two of them is it true love? Was it meant to be? What is going on now? Daemon choked her. Does this mean that they are no longer in a relationship moving forward in the sense that they won't be coupling and it's more of a formal occasion? It raises so many questions. So in this video, I want to quickly go through what I think of the relationship, where it is now, how it's going, and where it ultimately will end. Please slap a like on this video. Like goes for long night and the Ixos. One more thing, I'm going to be live tomorrow at 9 p.m. The time is switched up to a later time slot, and hopefully you can come and join me. Okay, so canonically, Daemon and Rhaenyra's relationship started a lot younger than it did in the TV show. Daemon, up until the king names Rhaenyra his heir, which is almost like immediately, I believe Rhaenyra is like 6 years old when she becomes the realm's delight, and it's made clear that she's, the king's heir. In canon, it's a little bit different because Daemon knows this and is aware of this, and this is why he starts treating her a certain way. Like, basically, he would bring her gifts. He would show a lot of special attention to her. All of this in doing so because he knows that that's his one way to get closer to the Iron Throne. If he seduces and creates this relationship with his niece, he will ultimately be, that much closer to the Iron Throne, since the king knows who Daemon is, how Daemon is, and would never name him, as his heir officially, right? So this is sort of, it's translated into the TV show a lot better. It makes more sense. Like, Rhaenyra's aged up, so it's not as uncomfortable to watch on screen, but still, it is very much grooming. She's supposed to be a teenager. Daemon is a grown-ass man. What he does to her in episode 4 on the Street of Silk, right? He ultimately doesn't consummate, but what he's trying to do is grooming her into, falling for him, and ultimately he knows that if he marries her, he's that much closer to the Iron Throne. So this is the dynamic we see early on the TV series, and then obviously she has the affair with Harwin after she begins to be married with Rhaenyra, and all of the strong boys are Harwin's children, and eventually when she does marry Daemon, in the books, they have several children as well. So what's interesting is that the amount of time they spend with each other, how their relationship dynamic is something that's just briefly glossed over in the books, because ultimately the dance, once it kicks out, they spend time apart. Like, Daemon is with Rhaenyra when she takes King's Landing, but he gets a new lover, Nettles, and spends most of the war in the Riverlands with her, right? So the TV show had to ask that question as the writers. When Ryan Condal's sitting down with his team, he's like, what canonically would make sense for their relationship to sort of just kind of trickle out like it does? Like, obviously, Rhaenyra giving stillbirth and suffering through all that with Visenya, that happens in the books, but that's not something that would make them, that is something that for sure in real life will drive a couple apart. The loss of a child, 100%. But they wanted to visualize it even more. Like, yes, Daemon wasn't present when Rhaenyra was giving birth to Visenya. She literally had to pull the baby out of her in the TV show. Like, you see a lot of the rhetoric online where people are just mad. Like, Daemon stans are just mad. I'm a Daemon stan myself. I just also know so much about the Song of Ice and Fire world that I can be fans of everyone. It just that's the best way to be. You find out that none of these characters are right or wrong. They're always in between, right? But when you look at Daemon stans, they say, like, oh, the reason why he did that to Rhaenyra, and then they'll sort of make up for it, right? And I was doing that with Daemon and Rhea Royce. Like, I caught myself saying when I'm reviewing that episode, I'm like, hey, Episode 5, Daemon, he just got back from the Stepstones. He was then kicked out of the kingdom after doing that, right? And, like, he wasn't going to kill his wife, but she egged him on. She said that one last thing, like, oh, you could never finish, right? And then he came back and smashed her head. And that's the copium that Daemon fans are using when applying that to why he choked Rhaenyra. So what I'm getting at here is that this was never true love. Rhaenyra thought it was initially, but then we learn it isn't, right? It's very clear that the two of them have their own objectives, and a character like Daemon can never really truly love someone as much as he loves himself and his quest for power, his ultimate goals. Like, it's part of that second son disease that George has made very clear in Song of Ice and Fires. Like, firstborn sons, a lot of the times, will do great things, right? But ultimately, the second son will do even better things. Like, that's happened in particular with the Targaryens a lot. So not just with Viserys and Daemon, in the sense that Viserys was never one to play in tourneys, was never one to joust or sword fight or go and play war, right? Daemon is everything that his brother is not, and then the same for the opposite. So we have that also in Aenys and Maegor, the sons of the dragon. Aegon the Conqueror's two sons. Aenys is this dude who loves poetry. He loves dancing. He loves singing. He loves all of those things that are like party traditional, right? He's not good at fighting wise. So Maegor the Cruel picks that up. Maegor is really good at being a warrior. Like, he's at 16 he becomes a knight, and that's one of the youngest in the Seven Kingdoms. He's always destroying people in tournaments, showing how good of a battler he is. Like, that's one of the things that happens, is he's the second son of Aegon the Conqueror. So technically, you know, Aenys and all of Aenys' children are ahead of him. So that's kind of what happens with Daemon. Viserys' daughter Rhaenyra, and now all of her children are ahead of Daemon. So when Rhaenyra says what she says to Daemon about the dream of ice and fire, and how basically, oh, Viserys didn't tell you, all of that rage and energy and just hatred that built up in Daemon, right, being a second son, he unleashed on Rhaenyra. And like, you shouldn't try to rationalize that, because what he did would have for sure got him put in jail, right? But you got to understand that their relationship is not love at first sight. It is very much something that has ups and downs, like real life, but ultimately Daemon was never going to 100% truly love Rhaenyra, because he cannot love anyone more than himself, or in this instance, the Iron Throne. Like, yes, at the very end, where their relationship ends, you could take it one of two ways, in my opinion. That it's the wrong way, but the first way being is that, oh, Daemon hears that Rhaenyra has sent people to kill Nettles, right? And that this is a queen's words, but a whore's work, right? Basically saying, that's literally what Daemon is quoted as saying in the books, is that Mysaria is mad at Daemon for not sleeping with her. Rhaenyra is mad at Daemon for sleeping with her, and the two of them conspired to take out Daemon and his happiness with Nettles, right? So Daemon realizes this. He obviously, him and Nettles don't get killed. They get tipped off by the maester, right? So they depart and they ride out. So, you know, Daemon obviously dies at the battle above the Harrenhal. Supposedly he could have drifted down the creek currents in the God's Eye and was later picked up by Sheepstealer and Nettles and maybe spent the rest of her days with her. But some people take that Daemon found out about Rhaenyra no longer loving him. They just sort of fill the context in that Daemon finds out Rhaenyra is no longer in love with him, and he willingly goes to kill himself because he's so distraught that Rhaenyra loves him. That's the wrong way to take it. But you know what? I need to be more open-minded. So I want to leave this video right here. You all, if you're watching this and you think that Daemon truly does love Rhaenyra, and this is true love, let me know why down below in the comment section. I look forward to debating with you, but ultimately I respect your opinion, even though it's wrong, right? I'm just kidding. I respect your opinion. So just let me know what you think down below. I want to thank you all so much for watching. This video wasn't very long, and my last couple of videos haven't been very long, and you can thank YouTube's algorithm for that. But not to worry, I'm doing these live streams. The live streams will always be over an hour worth of content every week. The day is still getting sorted out. I may actually start doing Sunday nights at 9. And then also, this is super exciting. Like, I'm relying on YouTube's ad revenue, also my Patreon, but then ultimately I have a Spring Tea store. That's linked here on YouTube. Go and check it out. I've got some really funny stickers. One for the Cargill twins, one for the foot, right? The colors of the foot sticker are for How Strong, just in case you're wondering. And then also, I got Sir Hunt's t-shirts. So please consider going to go check that out. And I make about $5 to $10 depending on what you buy from the merch store, so that really helps me out. Thank you for watching. Along that, and Zeldrizas Busdari, Ixos Daor.